Hello whiskey tourists, welcome to WhiskyWhistle. I'm your host Mark. Today on Whiskey Review 85 we're going to be looking at a classic blended Scotch whiskey, one that likely needs no introduction, and that is J&B Rare. This is, as I mentioned, a blended Scotch whiskey. It's 40% ABV. There's no mention of chill filtration or coloring. I'll leave you to decide what that means. Let's get that poured right away, shall we? Okay, that's a good 30 plus milliliters, maybe heading towards 40. Quite a famous brand. This is probably one of the top 5 sellers in the world for Scotch whiskey. So big brand. In fact, it might even be number 3 or 2. Now, color-wise, this is one of the great things about J&B. It is very light. And, you know, a lot of people who drink Scotch whiskey casually, they look at the color and they figure, oh, the darker the better. It has to be dark. And, you know, it just entirely depends on the casks. And it also depends on how much, if any, unnatural color, caramel color is added to the whiskey. Caramel color, if you're not aware, you take sugar and you brown it, you know, however you want to do that, on the fry pan or whatever, and there you've got your color. You take that brown sugar, put it in water, and watch what color it turns. So anyway, well, if a Scotch whiskey company does use any coloring, they typically use supposedly not enough to change the flavor or whatever. But you know, in this case, they've used very little, if at all. You know, I don't know if they did or not, and if they did, it is very light. A very light amount added to that, because we're looking at something that's roughly like a medium hay color, so you know, a little bit lighter than gold. Anyway, enough about the color. Let's talk a little bit about the whiskey. Okay, I'm going to let that sit just for a few minutes, and well, we'll talk about the brand a little bit. So J&B, what does this mean? Well, it's Justerini and Brooks. So J, Justerini, B from Brooks. The company itself was established in 1749. They were purveyors of all kinds of things, very much in line with many other of the big branded Scotch whiskey, blended Scotch whiskies, and how they began. They created one of the first house blends, so a house blended whiskey. This would have been perhaps sometime in the 19th century. Exactly when, I don't know. And someone slammed the door. Sorry about that. 1920s, fast forward to the 20th century, 1920, J&B Rare is created. It was created for the U.S. market, and this was during Prohibition, in fact, so it's quite interesting. And through their efforts during that period, when the Prohibition was repealed, they were well ahead of the game marketing-wise. People already knew J&B, and there's a bit of notoriety for this brand based on the fact that many of the Rat Pack, Dean Martin, and those types of Frank Sinatra, those famous crooners from Las Vegas, this was one of their favorite brands. So interesting. It's a blend of 42 malts, and this is right from Wikipedia. Apparently the Knockendo, I'm sorry if the pronunciation is wrong, Knockendo Distillery, Auchroysk, and Glen Spey are well featured. However, I think there are many other prominent malts in this blend, which we'll talk about shortly. And as you're watching the photos come and pass, oh, I cut off the top of the box there. That was real nice. Sorry. There's the big logo. And I think next we will see, what do we see there? Here it comes. Okay, so there she is. That's Caroline Martin. She's the master blender for this brand, and there's one more, I believe, which is Bell's. She happens to be a keeper of the Quake. I think it's Quake, Q-U-A-I-C-H. That's the store, Justine Brooks store. You can find those in London. Anyway, Caroline Martin, she is a 29-year veteran in the industry. And, well, she's on the leading edge of this big shift in the industry to really welcoming women into high-level positions. So fantastic, and I think she does a wonderful job. Okay, let's get on to the nosing. Before that, there will be a short advertisement right there. Okay, welcome back. Advertisements shown on this channel, by the way, will hopefully help to keep the reviews coming. I spend a lot of time preparing for these, and I also spend a lot of money. So hopefully at some point when the subscribership is getting up there, right now we're at about 285, and when the views are getting up there, I'm hoping that there'll be a little bit to help offset the cost of these reviews. There are some others who do whiskey reviews who have kind of like crowdfunding pages going on. I don't have one of those now, but you never know. In the future there may be. I think at this point it would be rather ineffective, just because of the fact that I don't really have that large of a base of viewership or subscribers. Anyway, on to the nose. Cheers, everybody. So first of all, it's got that classic Scotch smell. There are apples, there's a hint of peat and smokiness, caramel and vanilla. Rocky, quiet. My dog's right here. Caramel and vanilla. Oranges. It's quite bright. What else? This is from my notes. With time, you'll find more caramel developing. I don't really smell very much grain whiskey. Blended Scotch whiskey, that's a mixture of single malts and grain whiskeys, single grain whiskeys if you like. They are aged separately and then blended and married. Marriage is a process where they put all the different whiskeys into a vat. It may be made of oak, and then it will allow to mix and meld on its own. What's the benefit? Well, you take two different whiskeys. They have two different sets of natural chemical compounds in them. So when you blend them together, there are going to be some chemical reactions between, and some new chemical, fragrant chemicals, taste chemicals, often called congeners, will be created. Anyway, so that's the story there. And for J&B, they are married for a year or more in oak to fully blend and synergize and allow all of that genesis of flavor to happen. Okay, anyway, so not much grain. Cinnamon, okay, lots of cinnamon. There's not much vanilla. So a little bit more on the salty caramel. Apples and orange. hint of peat, not too much, and with time you'll find more caramel appear. Now I'm just going to move my dog away since he's being rather noisy. I'll be right back, and I'm going to cut that out. Always lots of action here in the WhiskyWhistle headquarters, aka my home. Okay. So that's the nose. And if I were to choose one that I thought was similar to this in style, it would be, of course, Cont'd Sark, which in fact is owned by the same company, Diageo. Should have mentioned that. Oh, and there's a fruit fly that's come to welcome us. You must enjoy the sweet smell of J&B. Okay, let's get on to the taste of J&B Rare Neat. Cheers again. Well, it opens quite sweet, and then it progresses into some sourness and dry bitterness, and quite a big bit of sourness, and then there's also some strong pepper that comes through there. Now, to my likings, it's a little bit too much pepper to keep in the mouth for very long. But then you persevere and you go in there again, and that strong pepperiness has subsided somewhat. In other words, my palate has gotten a little bit used to it. Okay, so what did I write here? I wrote big sweet, and then sourness, and I wrote big, bitter, and pepper. Bitter, again, bitter is that dryness that you feel. Flavor-wise, I'm tasting cinnamon hearts. I'm tasting licorice. I'm not tasting any peat. And there's some caramel in there as well. Finish-wise, I should say the aftertaste, dry, some pepperiness, fruit and smoke, caramel, quite a clean finish. Licorice is still there, and medium in length. Now, I'm sure you're aware this is quite a reasonably priced Scotch whiskey, even for blends. Put just a little bit of water in there. Now, at this particular moment in time, blends, whether they have age statements or not, seem to be 10 to 20% cheaper than equivalent single malts. And I don't think it used to be that way. You can get a very nice 18-year-old blended Scotch whiskies, be it something from Diageo like Johnny Walker, Platinum, I think, or some of the competitors from other companies, for around about $100 Canadian, give or take. However, something like a big brand, let's say one of the big brands, the big Glen brands, 18-year-old, I've seen recently at about 120 Canadian. So anyway, if you are a person who only drinks single malts, just give them a try, and you know, recognize that there are differences. It's not inferior. Some of them may be, but there are also some inferior single malts too. Anyway, so let's get on with water now. And we'll have another short advertisement right here. Welcome back. Onto the nose now, J&B Rare with water. Seems a little saltier, oddly enough. A little more caramel. Much more caramel now. Maybe a little bit of vanilla is coming out to play now too. What did I write here? Well, I'm not getting that now, but earlier when I wrote this, I wrote here a hint of leather. I don't sense that now. That's the beauty of tasting whiskey deeply over multiple tries. You get something a little different each time. And that's not to say that you're imagining things. It's just a matter of the moment, how your senses are working, and also what the whiskey is doing. So, no. Okay. And then interestingly enough, not just caramel, but there's maple syrup happening now. Maple syrup, maybe a little bit more like Aunt Jemima's pancake syrup, maple flavor. Okay. We'll taste it now. Cheers again. Cheers to Miss Carolyn Martin. It's much fruitier now. It certainly does soften the edges there. Less pepperiness, less sourness. A little bit of fudge. More like a salty fudge. Dry wine. And a bit of cardboard. Yeah. And it's not really bad. That's just, you know, kind of like a woody smell, more like sawdust rather than actual wood. And the finish now, the vanilla is also coming through in the finish now with water. So you're getting a little bit of playtime with the vanilla there, which is nice. Well, give it one more shot, and then we'll talk about the score. Now, I can see why a blend like this would be bottled at 40%. Honestly, the pepperiness and that strong bitter sourness would be much too strong and too powerful if it were overproof, over, let's say, 43 even. You know, or they'd have to reformulate it somewhat. Anyway, with water, it certainly becomes much more palatable, and you get a little bit more different flavors coming through. Then that's really nice. Okay, so the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for J&B Rare. Well, first of all, I've called this the ubiquitous rare whiskey. And, well, what have I written here? It's a decent entry-level blend. A little bit of harshness on the palate. It would be a very good mixture, and it's also okay neat. So the score is going to be 72 out of 100 for J&B Rare. Okay, so 72 out of 100, J&B Rare Cask, J&B Rare, and that's 40% ABV from J&B, Justerini and Brooks. Well, I hope you enjoyed the review. Stay tuned for the next one. There will be another J&B product coming out on WhiskyWhistle, I should say. So stay tuned, and please do subscribe. You can click the link right down there in the corner and like the video. That'll help me a lot. And tell your friends if you think they might like this video as well. Thank you so much, and have yourselves a wonderful day or night or wherever you are. Goodbye.